about wrapping up IAA 2015 in style in the new Mercedes-Benz S500 convertible, and together with the former editor-in-chief of Engadget and now the master of all automotive at CNET, pretty much, Tim Stevens. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. It's my last day, so I'm fantastic.
Yes. It's been a long show. It's only a 2-day show, but man, it's exhausting. I've been actually in Germany for over a week now. I was out here lucky enough to test the new 911 last week, so that was cool.
Sweet.
But now this is a very comfortable place to be to wrap up the show.
Plus, at this time tomorrow, I'm on my way to Singapore to see the Formula One Grand Prix.
Congratulations. That's pretty sweet. Very sweet indeed.
It's going to be quite interesting because of the weather right now. It's just like super hazy and smog because of
Singapore. That's what you come to expect.
Anyways, it's going to be fun. You know what, Tim? Well, the topic of this year's IAA, for the very first time, Mobility Connects. We see a huge, almost disruptive merger in between a very traditional economy, the car industry, and now a new economy. It's all getting digitalized. I don't want to use all these buzzwords of digital transformation, but it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing more and more technology within cars, not only within the drivetrains, but within the infotainment system sitting in here in the dashboard. I mean, we're sitting here in a very high-end Mercedes that has a lot of beautiful tactile controls, but also we have two big displays in front of us ultimately now that are virtual displays. You know, there's no gauge in here. There isn't even a clock in here, I don't think. So it's a pretty interesting demonstration of where we are in terms of technology, in terms of the integration of technology within the automotive space. And it's a pretty exciting place. I mean, the Porsche Mission E concept is a pretty exciting car. Fully electric Porsche sports car looks beautiful. Mercedes, we see their IAA concept down there, which is the aerodynamic car, which stretches out based on your performance and speed and that kind of thing, which is pretty exciting. All this based on wind tunnel information and technology that they've derived from their designers, and it's cool stuff.
Have you seen the Audi SUV concept, the electric one?
Yes, absolutely. Which is we've got the Porsche taking on the Tesla Model S. We've got Audi kind of taking on the Model X, as it were, and it's good to see them kind of finally getting there and getting to the point where the Audi seems like it's not that far off in the future. Yeah. The Porsche is probably maybe 5 or 8 years out. But really, we're within a couple of years of having these cars in the market, which is pretty exciting for me anyway. I'm a pretty big fan of EVs. I think there's a lot of potential there. There's still a long way to go for a lot of people. But to have a company like Audi be ready to deliver a high-end electric car like that is exciting.
It's quite interesting. Like 2 years ago, the IAA was all about electromobility. And this year, it kind of seems, we have some concepts. We have some plug-in hybrids. But it still seems that the market, the global market of like 84 million units that are getting sold each and every year, is still not really adopting this idea of an mobility platform.
There's still a bit of a curiosity. I mean, Tesla's had great success, but if you look at their sales overall in terms of the grand market, they're about the size of, they're less than the Leaf and the Volt combined in the US, which is tiny. So you can look at Tesla and say, wow, that's a great success story, but it's still got such a long way to go ultimately before they're a real mainstream player. And so I think that's what companies like Audi, like Mercedes are watching, waiting to see when the market's ready. And they're going to jump in just like, as a Formula One fan, it's like other people might wait for someone to change their rain tires, and when they do, everybody else might do the same thing. Kind of like that. Everyone's waiting for someone to have a really big success in an EV, then everyone's going to dive in the market, I think. But everyone here is showing that they're ready to do that when the market's right. They're ready to pull the trigger.
Because when we're talking about the development cycles, how long it takes to get a new platform onto the market, this is like, for the premium car manufacturers, in between 5 and 7 years, so they really need to think ahead.
Absolutely, and that development cycle has caused lots of issues with automakers in the past, particularly when we're talking about in-cabin technology. A car, you can imagine where smartphones were 5 years ago, and if that's where the cars are today were designed around, you can see why there might be some shortages when it comes to car connectivity. But they're learning, they're getting better about being able to plug in things like in-car connectivity later to make things a little bit more agile, more adaptive. But still, they've got to be mind readers. They've got to be looking at their crystal globe to know where the market's going to be in 5 years. And then that's a lot of what these concepts are. They throw the concept out there, they see what the reaction is. If people like it, then they'll go with it.
I think this is a very interesting point that you just made. Is this kind of traditional automotive industry is now merging together with an industry that has like development cycles of 12 months, life cycles of 2 to 3 years, because those platforms are supposed to live for 3 or 4 decades. And so to build up a very, very modular system, modular platforms, which is also a huge challenge for their tier ones, like the classic Bosch guys, right? Building up all these systems. And this is where you can still learn a lot from the consumer electronics, from the mobile technology industry.
And if you look at the new BMW 7 Series, for example, which is also here on the show floor making, I think, its global debut, in the back seat there's a Samsung 7-inch Galaxy tablet. And it's basically the same tablet that you can go to Best Buy or to whatever retailer and purchase, but it is integrated into the back seat in such a way that it's a custom version of that tablet, effectively. And my first thought when I saw that was, oh, that's pretty cool that I can recline my seat from this tablet. It's pretty neat. But my second thought was, what happens in 5 years when the battery on this thing is completely fried? Will BMW still have these? Will Samsung still be making these? Yeah, okay, maybe 18 months is more like it. But that was my first thought was, what do we do when these things are no longer available? You know, I have a 25-year-old Toyota at home that I love and that I cherish, and I can still go to a Toyota garage and buy parts for that thing. Will I be able to buy a new Samsung 7-inch Galaxy tablet in 25 years? I don't think so.
Yeah, there are actually some suppliers like Johnson Controls. They're building headrests that are compatible with all kinds of 7 to 10-inch tablets. Right, so you can make sure that you can always upgrade to the latest version, which is crucial for this industry, in my opinion. And I think this is why companies like NVIDIA have this huge success over there. What they did was coming from the K1 processor, now with the X1 and the MMX board, right, which is a modular system. And I think Volkswagen brought it to their MIB platform, and now it's the MIB2, and which is like a real form factor, right? And you have this little box, and then you can just, go to your retailer and just change it to the new version.
And that's a big reason why we've seen these quantum leaps forward in infotainment over just the past 3 or 4 years, because manufacturers have finally realized that they can't do all this stuff in-house anymore, and that they need to go to market leaders like NVIDIA to really deliver the graphical powerhouse that we as consumers have come to expect, thanks to our smartphones and tablets and everything else that we do. And since then, we've seen huge advancements in terms of graphics. We've also seen advancements in display technology, LCDs with curved edges so they fit within dashboards better. As I say that, I'm looking at 2 unfortunately large rectangles kind of stuffed in here, which is a little bit unfortunate. But ultimately, we're seeing things that fit better into the car ecosystem. They're more durable, that are longer lasting, that'll last decades and decades as you need them to, but still offer the kind of power that you need to deliver a modern graphics system like Google Earth in your dashboard, that kind of thing, which is what consumers want these days.
Well, absolutely. What do you think about the usability of the UI development and the front end? To me, like in each and every car I see, I think there's just, why don't they do some market research on this?
We still have a long way to go.
Are they actually checking this out?
We definitely have a long way to go, which is frustrating because we've come so far, but it's like we're almost in that uncanny valley where things were looking really good, and then they've gotten really awful again, and then they've got to improve a long way. We see some interesting things, like again, in the 7 Series, there's gesture control, so if you want to turn up the volume, you can just do that in there. In theory, that's a really cool idea. In practice, it doesn't really work that well. But the idea is great. The idea that you could just, to turn up the volume, just do that in midair would be really, really nice. To change the channel, to answer a call, just wave your hands around. I think that is really what's going to be the solving factor, because touchscreens are good, but they're not really great while you're driving. These rotary dials that we see are actually really nice, I think, but they're still kind of slow and clunky, and they're hard to learn for someone who's not familiar with technology. And ultimately, there are so many features you can't have a button for everything anymore. So I think gestures will help a lot. Voice is going to help a lot too. We've seen a lot of improvements there too. And that's getting so much better. But ultimately, a lot of the best voice systems, Siri and so forth, require an active connection to the cloud. And a lot of cars have that, but not every car does.
Sometimes I'm getting the impression that a couple of designers and those manufacturers were meeting up, and someone dropped the gamification bomb, right? And then they tried to do something fancy that they saw on a smartphone, and which is something that you might not be able to scale up into an automotive environment. But it's just like, when I'm doing navigation or I'm searching for a new radio station, and like 1/3 of the display just shows me the globe. I know how that globe looks like. I know it's not a disc. Or it shows me the car. Hey, listen, I just bought this car. I just stepped into it. I know how this car looks like. It's neat because
it's the same color as your real car, so therefore it needs to be on there all the time.
I hear you. Weird. It's just very childish and very naive design.
It's definitely them showing off what they can do because they still think it's neat and cool. And ultimately, it is kind of neat and cool for about the first day of ownership, but pretty quickly after that, you very, very quickly learn to tire of it. And you could definitely deal with some little bit more practical design, I guess we could put it that way in a polite way. I think Mercedes has done a pretty good job of keeping the flash to a minimum. Their displays, or their menu systems have always been kind of ugly and clunky in my opinion, but very functional, and very easy to read too, you know, high contrast, easy to see at a glance, which is pretty important. I do like BMW's rotary dial system. I do think that's the kind of thing that once you learn it is great, but there's such a huge learning curve that a lot of people just don't want to do.
I'm not getting it. I mean, those designers just need to head over to the QNX booth for the last 5 years to see how you have to do it, right? I mean, those guys are so ahead of the whole industry.
But we're seeing a lot of automakers poaching from Apple, from Google, from other companies like that, and bringing in a lot of technology and a lot of talent, I should say, from these consumer-focused, software-focused companies, people who've been doing UI for a long time. Obviously, that's a huge shift to go from making something that works on a touchscreen to make something that works in a 3D environment like this, and that you can do while driving at 80 miles an hour without killing yourself or somebody else. That's a huge challenge. But ultimately, you know, to have that basis of UI understanding versus someone who's maybe been writing ECU programming for 15 years and now they're trying to make a button look good, I think that's an easier transition.
So what's the coolest thing that you saw over here on the show floor?
The Mission E is a beautiful car, the Porsche Mission E. So that's basically, you could think of it like a next generation Porsche Panamera, 4 doors, 4 seats, 600 horsepower, pretty nice. But that's a concept, so I don't know if I should pick that. In terms of a real car, the Giulia, the Alfa Giulia, is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I am in love with that. Which
actually broke the lap record on the Nordschleife, right?
Yeah, I think, was it 12 seconds faster than the M3, something like that? So the bar has been raised.
All over the M5s and just, seriously, that was crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive though. 90,000 euro for the Quadrifoglio is the 90,000 euro, so it'll be probably knocking out $100,000 in the US. That's a fair bit of money for a 4-door sedan, but it's beautiful.
Have you seen the VR6 Horex bike?
I did, yeah. I don't know if I love it. I like custom motorcycles for sure, but that one's, I don't know, something about the proportions of that thing I don't like too much.
It looks a little bit wrong.
It does, and the fact that it's called VR6, I expected to have a Volkswagen engine in there, but it doesn't. So I was like, that's not 6 cylinders. What's going on in here? So hijinks in the engine department, but yeah, did you see?
It looked heavy. It looked very heavy. I was taking a look at the front brake. I said, oh my god, that's a biggie.
So speaking of motorcycles, probably the coolest bike I saw was just a Ducati Panigale R, nothing too special, but it was in the back of a Volkswagen Panamericana van. They have a concept van with this tray that slides out. You basically mount your motorcycle on the tray, you shove it in the back of the van, and you can drive away. So I have a trailer for my motorcycle at home, and that's a huge pain in the posterior. So that looks like an ideal solution to me.
So what's your next stop? What's on your agenda?
Home for like a day, which is going to be cool. And then, man, I'm going out to Detroit a whole lot over the next month, which is always good. Lots of good stuff going on in Detroit. And then I think I'm going to CTEC in a couple of weeks in Tokyo. So
it's also happening
early, and then Tokyo Motor Show will be after that.
The Tokyo Motor Show. It never stops. And you know what?
Never ever stops.
Then it's going to be CES again.
Yeah.
Almost.
And then Detroit, and then New York Auto Show. And it just never stops.
It never stops, right? And sometimes, you know what, I seriously think you just can't keep up with the development anymore. And with all these shows, we're getting more and more shows globally.
Plus all the private launches, because a lot of manufacturers, you know, they've taken the cue from Apple from a couple of years ago. They want to do their own big show. So instead of all of us having the nicety of coming to a big show like this and seeing everything, we come here and see most of everything. And then we have to go to all the private events to see all the other big stuff. Right. So, yeah, it just means more and more travel, more and more frequent flyer miles, more gray hair.
But to me, this is like a vacation, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Well, walking the show floor is really nice compared to CES, for sure.
Huge pressure of, okay, here's press conference A, B, C. Here are all these embargoes. This is just like a very relaxed environment. I'm really enjoying it.
It's quite nice. Auto shows are great. They have much more plush carpet than they have at CES. The cappuccino wherever you like, and lots of food too, which helps. And people smell better here than I find at CES as well.
That is so true.
Sad but true.
I can only confirm this. Tim, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure. And I'm going to see you hopefully in Tokyo.
Absolutely. You got the keys for this thing?
Unfortunately, I don't. I wonder about those stairs.
I think we can make it. We can get up enough head of steam, we'll clear them, no problem.